Give us, if you will, Teepa, kind of like a state of the union, because you're a pioneer. You've been doing this for more than 40 years. The age wave that we all knew was coming is now upon us. And I'm guessing that there's probably people that are better experts about what's happening in terms of research and maybe better experts in terms of prevention, but there's nobody better at dealing with caring for someone that has dementia. Well, are we where you'd like us to be?
Oh, we're so far behind the curve. It's frightening. We are on an hourly, minute by minute basis gaining more people in the population of those who have the pre-clinical symptoms but are starting to show some patterns of behavior, and then are actually entering into life is changing and will need some support. And we are still trying to think that that's just typical aging. That can't be what it is. So I don't think we need to worry about it yet. I don't think there's anything we need to do in advance. I don't see any reason to change anything at this moment. And it's like, well, now would be the time. Because if I said to you, you could possibly buy yourself 5 to 8 years of not having clinical symptoms that are pretty significant to changing your life and my life as your support, what would you say back to me?
Tell me how.
Yeah, well, you would think that, but when it comes to dementia, everybody's so scared of it. Well, no, that's just normal aging, right? So if I just do my New York Times crossword puzzle, and I go out and do a little bit of walking, and I try not to drink too much, and I try to be a little social, that'll do it, right? And it's like, well, for a lot of us, it won't. It's not, because it's already changing. So I think the reality is we're going to be swept away unless we start recognizing there is dementia in the world. And I might be the one who's starting to show symptoms. So what could we do together that would make this transition less problematic? Because if I'm the one developing the condition, you might be the person who's providing care. And without the right knowledge and skill, your stress level starts to go up. And one of the really strong indicators of a risk pattern for spontaneous dementia, not the genetically pre-programmed type, is distress over periods of your life. So if I can get you less distressed because you're going, okay, so it looks like we've got something cooking. So when you say, listen, I don't want people messing with stuff. Oh, you're not wanting people to move stuff. Okay, well, you've got a couple of piles here. Tell me about those piles. Is real different than, Dad, what are you doing? This stuff is all over the place. You can't know where anything is. You can't even find anything. You haven't even done taxes last year. What do you hear in my voice?
Stress.
Yes.
Frustration.
Yeah, and I'm a generation younger, but I'm coming. And so I'm at high risk now if this pattern doesn't shift. And we've done it for so many generations. It's like, we know better. How can we start to do better? And that's, we're so delayed. There's so much fear, and there's so much hope for this magic thing, the pill, the infusion, the whatever, that will take it all away. And I was just in San Diego at the Salk Institute for an international conference on researchers who are saying, this is going to be like cancer. It's going to be bits and pieces and maybe here but not there. What's the most common type of dementia for people over the age of 80, do you think?
Alzheimer's?
See, you would think that. Actually, it's not. The most common is called late. It's a different kind of protein malformation that only mostly happens to old adults, and it has a profound effect in about 1/4 of people, and about 1/3 of everybody over 85 has it. And it's only been discovered, it's called TDP43. It's only been discovered in the last 5 years. I mean, there's incredible research, but that doesn't mean the care is keeping up, because if we find out this, then we need to start coming up with care plans, and we don't even know it exists for the vast majority of people, even in the know. It's still a new idea that we have a different thing. It's not Alzheimer's. is something different. And it's like, it has a different pattern. It has a profound pattern, and it's going to affect a large number of people over 85.
I read something actually just this morning that said that the extent of non-diagnosis of mild cognitive impairment is 90%, which might mean that as many as 7.5 million Americans have mild cognitive impairment and don't know about it, which means we're not doing anything about it.
I would actually say it's a little higher than that. We know that about 80% of people with mild dementia have not yet been diagnosed. 80% have progressed past MCI, and we still haven't diagnosed in 80% of cases. It's not until mid-state dementia that we're going, oh, I think we have dementia. But of course, at that point, people think we're in early. It's like, oh no, we skipped that. And we could have done a lot of things in those early states, MCI particularly. But we just keep thinking, well, that's just normal aging, right? And it's like, no, this is not normal aging. If you don't have a baseline, you don't know what's normal for you. And the problem is we still don't have people taking baselines on cognitive, even simple baselines. Not even as dramatic as the latest stuff coming out on the MoCA, which I'm sure everybody's heard all about, the Montreal cognitive tests that Trump and Biden and all those folks, and they even did on CBS News kind of thing. But even simpler than that, like name as many animals as you can in a minute, verbal fluency, and let's see how many of those you get, and then in 6 months let's see what it looks like, because we should maybe see a little slowing, but we shouldn't see a change in how you do that. Maybe draw a clock. We shouldn't see a big shift in how you do the numbers and then how you put the time on it. Those are two real quick, 1 minute, and we sort of have some data that the next time you come in, we take a look again.
I wouldn't ask you to diagnose leading political leaders, but since you mentioned their names, I think what we're all seeing in real time, at least people forgetting names. When you see that, what should we take from that?
Well, I think we have baselines we can look back on previous conversations, how they presented previously, and I think that certainly raises the question of, is this normal aging that we're seeing? Or is this somebody in a pressure cooker who's feeling a lot of distress and stress and really not getting enough sleep and really not taking care of themselves very well? Or is this somebody who's like cooking with gas? And if we don't shift what's going on for folks, yeah, it could be situational, but it could also be more than situational. And I think that's the challenge we face with no baselines and no monitoring. Is this something that if I get you in a situation that's less stressful and I put you in this situation and you start eating well and you start exercising well and socializing more, can we turn this stuff around a bit and buy time? And the answer is, yeah, we can. We have data on this, but not if we ignore it and just keep going the way we're going.
And that really is kind of the big development in the last few years, as we've all said for a long time, lifestyle choices we make can delay, maybe prevent, slow down the progression of, but now there's actual research that proves it. That's changed the narrative coming out of a lot of these national Alzheimer's dementia organizations.
You would think. But we still don't want to look and say, so I have some mild cognitive impairment, should I do something about it? Other than, is there a pill I can take?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, the evidence there is not strong. What's strong is, let's go back to your lifestyle. And for the kids that are helping you, let's look at their lifestyle while we're at it. Because the sooner we start that lifestyle pattern, it has to be a pattern, it can't be something you do on Mondays, that's where we see the biggest bang for the buck. We know that getting out in nature, spending time with animals, being social, all of those can have impact. Eating well, look at how when we eat. It does matter. I'm sorry, but it does matter. So there's no free ride. And I know people are thinking, but George Burns, and it's like, oh yeah, there's always super agers. There's really lucky people and really genetically gifted people. Are you one of them? Well, maybe so, but maybe not. I'd rather stack the odds in my favor in case I'm not one of them.
All of that said, what I love about you and what you do is that you're so aligned with what Growing Bolder attempts to do. I mean, we're trying to destigmatize aging as a whole, not by ignoring the reality of the struggle, by understanding what's there, but helping people understand they still have the ability to extract joy out of the moment. As I understand, that's what you do. I mean, you're helping people live their best life for as long as they can, given the circumstances. Describe for me what positive approach to care is all about.
So if you can't figure out why we're here and you say, listen, I need to get to work. And I'm like, well, you've been retired a long time. We're not doing that anymore. That's called reality orientation. And all it's likely to do is frustrate you and frustrate me. So I don't see the value in doing it. I acknowledge, wow, okay, got to get to work. So you got to get to work. So tell me more. Now, do you need to go for an interview or something different? And now all of a sudden, rather than a disagreement, we're having a discussion. And if I know a little about you, which I obviously did, or we wouldn't know what kind of work you did, I could say, is it a meeting or something else? That's called a this or a that option. How many words did you have to come up with on your own? You said you wanted to go to work, and I said, for an interview or something else? Interview. Now, what I did is I had to pause, and I had to wait to see if you did get the message. Took you a few beats. You came back. You were on target with it. What are you doing right now?
Having a conversation.
Yeah, you get to do your work right here because I figured out what you were feeling the need to do. You needed to feel productive and valued, and you needed to have something to do with this time that was empty for you. And I just gave you me, because I'm going to be involved with you one way or the other. Either you're trying to get to work and I'm saying, Dad, no, you don't. And in that moment, what's really hard for families is to recognize Dad doesn't realize I'm the daughter. And I have to be willing to let go of my role of daughter to be his support care in this moment. Because he didn't say, hey, sweetheart, can you get me to work or something? He was like, I'm not sure who you are, but I'm asking you. So that's an example of how we take the moment that comes up and decide to put value into it rather than to create conflict in it.
I watched my father ask my mother, what's for lunch, 8 times in 15 minutes, and she got very frustrated, made him feel like he
was an idiot.
He was an idiot. How do you answer that question?
So you're wanting to know what we're having for lunch?
I do.
Yeah. Now, were you thinking something hot or cold?
I would like a sandwich.
You want a sandwich. Well, you know what? Sounds like a great idea. Come with me and look at what we've got in the refrigerator, because I would prefer making something you like. So come with me. Now, what just happened?
You've sucked me into something where I'm busy and I'm engaged.
So what was happening for you while I was fixing lunch? Or even before that? What was happening to that time for you, for your dad?
Nothing.
Nothing. So what could he do to interact with his spouse? What are we having for lunch? Because he didn't know how to fill that void. And because she didn't have the skill to do something different, it became confrontational. Because she was trying to do something and he just kept asking the same question over and over and over. It's like, yeah, he will, because he's trying to connect. And he doesn't know what else to do. And he feels sort of useless.
Simple, maybe too trite to say, but we can't bring them back, so we have to go with them.
Yeah, I mean, so we go with their flow. So that I call it going with the flow, because I can't, sort of like water in a stream. I mean, if it's heading downhill, trying to swing it around and bring it back uphill, but I can divert a little bit and sort of see if I can get it not to like wash out a riverbank. But it's not my job to reverse the flow of the river. It's my job to help the river flow as gently as we can and maybe hit some still water and sort of create those little eddies that aren't like falling waterfalls or crashing sort of awful stuff that people feel like they're going to wreck on the rocks. Smooth it out a little bit.
None of us, as you've noted, unless we're some sort of genetic super freaks, are immune. And even someone like Teepa Snow, whose mind is incredibly, were you to be diagnosed with Alzheimer's and you had a caregiver as knowledgeable as you are, what would you think about that situation in your life?
Yeah, well, I think I'll be a challenge no matter what, because I do like to try things out. So I imagine I'll be a bit of a every now and then. But I also think as long as I get a chance to feel valued, I'll probably be okay, because I'm also the kind of person that likes to try a whole lot of different things. So I've never stayed on a job more than 7 years without changing something. And I love to take risks, which will scare the bejeebers out of people. But, Tai Chi, sure, let's try it. Oh, wait, I've got a better way to do it. Here, let's get on the table and see what happens. And it's like, somebody has to know, Teepa, I know you're thinking of the table, but I could use your help right now. Oh, sure. Because anybody who needs help can always get my attention.
Now you read about the fact there's blood tests, there's AI that's figuring this stuff out. But what do you say to somebody? Because you read all the time, well, that's just the normal side of aging. If we start to not be able to get the word, if we can't complete the thought, at what point do we get tested? What do we do?
Well, see, this is where if we had a baseline, then we could say, you are seeing some shifts. Tell me how you're feeling about that first. How are you doing with that? Okay, I feel like crap. And tell me what you're doing every day. Because now I know where there's potential for shift. So you're having trouble with some words. Tell me what you're doing on a daily pattern. What's your sleep pattern? What's your social pattern? How often are you playing games with yourself about, okay, let's name as many animals as you can. Okay, timer, check. And let's play with that. Now I'm going to give you visuals of animals and ask you to do it, to see what happens when we add a visual imagery part. So we quit seeing it as dead ends and we start seeing it as avenues of possibility, because we don't know. We truly are just on that front edge of what happens if we do intervene in those times. What happens if we do take that chance of okay, so you're having some language things. Are they mostly nouns or verbs? I mean, really getting curious about it instead of being so scared. I can't think of words. And it's like, okay, what kind? Have you ever done a foreign language? Those kinds of questions. How about if we play with this stuff instead of get so worried about it? Turns out the chemistry of your brain just changes just like that. And guess what you can suddenly do that you couldn't do 5 minutes ago? Find those words. Because we are incredibly facile at neuroplasticity, truly. And once we recognize things are changing, instead of getting all gloom and doom on it, say, well, okay, well, let's see what we could do if we play around with it a little bit. Try dancing with a partner and doing a new kind of dance step. Try Tai Chi and then exercise and then use your brain. See what happens.
You said avenues of possibility, which makes it change the subject altogether, but it makes me think of some of these European countries that create communities where there are literally avenues of possibility. How is the U.S. doing compared to other parts of the world in terms of providing a lifestyle that's worth living for people with cognitive impairment?
We're on par with most countries, believe it or not, which is not great. There are isolated spaces, like in the Netherlands, but they're just isolated. It's not the whole country joining on board, where multi-generational living together and sharing and living life together and figuring out how to do that is actually part of living. But there are huge parts of countries where that's not happening, whether it's Australia or Canada or wherever. So we're on par. Everybody wants it, but nobody's willing to shift the amount of shifting that's going to have to happen. Our payment sources, our housing sources, our funding sources of all kinds of things are so tied with current patterns. It's going to be tough to move them. Medicare doesn't cover anything related to dementia, although they'll cover a lot of illnesses that you might have in conjunction with your dementia. So if you get a urinary tract infection, we'll cover the care for that, but not the reason you end up with so many UTIs. I mean,
You are, definitely a glass half full kind of a gal, but go to the dark side for a minute, if you will, because when you look at the 10,000 of us that have been turning 65 every day for the last 20 years, 15 years.
And nobody noticed.
and nobody noticed, but the burden of care, both on families and agencies and the government, I mean, how bad might it be? It's
getting to where it's going to be horrendous. We're going to lose families, we're going to lose people, we're going to lose care. I mean, we already are. Small nursing homes that were doing the community work are closing down. They can't stay funded. There's no funding for them. Families are crushing. They're crushed. They're crashing. There's not the resources they need. And this next up generation doesn't have any of the extras that the previous generation stored and used. They used that all up in the care. We don't have models that are working. And it's about to come crashing down on us. And the idea that we can afford $38,000 per person per year for an infusion that might change your score on a clinical test, doesn't demonstrate any change in day-to-day function, and not pay for anything for care, routine care, just seems crazy. I don't know another word to use. It just seems crazy that we are not in a better place than we are.
And there is this widening care gap, if you will, more older people and fewer younger people. And I know families, the divorce rate is high for baby boomers, and families are moving. I mean, it's a situation where even if you're willing to care for somebody, it's difficult, but there's so many people that have nobody to care for them.
Yeah, I mean, a number of empty slots in a care rotation, whether it's at home or in a facility. I mean, we just don't have the personnel. We are not training new personnel. The number of gerontologists is going down, not up. The number of nurses and providers who want to get into geriatric care, but that's where we are. And so it's pretty scary, and we still don't have any requirement to understand dementia. No quiz you have to take, no skill you have to have. And that's where I think we are totally missing where we could make the biggest difference in a very small cost ratio, is to bring people up to speed on some basic care skills, so that it doesn't tear apart families. And you could still manage to go to work, because we'd have 5 families working together. And I'd take Monday off, you could take Tuesday, he could have Wednesday, and the 5 of the folks that we care for are hanging out together. And we're doing some things together because we've learned some basic skill sets. I think we're going to have to form our own new family, if you would, to get us through this. Because spouses alone, kids alone, with one family, we've tried that model, and all we do is we got a next generation. We have the next one up.
We obviously have to have caregivers that have the type of skill set that you teach, and that is, enabling people to not feel guilty or withdraw. But that said, I hear myself saying this, and sometimes I say, do you really believe this, Marc, that, we're all trying to live in the moment, no matter who or where we are, and that is an ability that people with dementia have, is to live in the moment, and it's incumbent upon us to try to find a way to help them extract joy from that moment. Is that true?
It's all true, yeah, because if they get joy and we get joy, we both have brain health. I mean, that phenomena of joy, of having moments where our brain feels good, actually creates the chemistry that keeps us going and sustains us through the harder parts.
As someone who has spent decades devouring this subject, learning everything you can, are you still learning? And if so, is there any one thing that has surprised you the most over the years about dementia?
Okay. Yeah, I'm still learning, always. When I stop learning, it's time to stop, for me, when I'm not finding that. The thing that surprises me is no matter how many people I work with, there's something unique about each individual in each situation, which is fun for me. For many people, they find that the most frustrating part because I can't predict everything. And it's like, wow, you like to predict everything? So there's no surprises, no like moment of that sort of wonder of like, wow, Marc did that. Huh, I would not have predicted that. Isn't that interesting? Now I have a new synapse to form. And for me, that's where I really get my pleasure in the work I do, is that when I discover something, and then I can say, ooh, when you're working with Marc, try this, because this is something that I would not have thought that, but that's sure enough what worked. Isn't that weird? And now we have a new way of trying to engage in something that makes sense, to me at least. So, I mean, that's what's so exciting about this still to this day.
Final question. Let's take dementia out of it altogether, your area of expertise, because you have lived a life. I just give us the Teepa Snow moral of the story, the takeaway about life in general. What do you feel about what makes a life worth living?
Yeah. For me, being of service. Being of service makes my life worth living. If I can't serve in some fashion, that greater space, that greater situation, why bother? I've got to find the service, even if that service is simply to be present and witness and hold space for someone. That for me is service. And for me, that's why I'm here, is to provide that which people can benefit from and I can find joy in.
Well, we're all grateful that you have the heart for doing it. Thank you, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.